The situation in Florida is gearing up to be the worst one yet, with hundreds of thousands of people leaving the state to get to safety. Kamala Harris is politicizing this event and turning this into an attack on the governor, which is Governor Desantis, that has non-stopped showed his not only willingness to help the people affected, but also his willingness to use the things that he has at his disposal to get the job done for the citizens of Florida that is in need. He deployed hundreds of thousands of electricians to make sure that as soon as the grid goes offline, they were ready to put it back online. He also made sure that thousands of search and rescue people were prepared to help anyone stranded. Lastly, telling everyone to evacuate and not risk their lives to see if they can withstand a Category 5 hurricane. He has shown not only this time, but time and time again that he can not only handle situations like these, but he shines at these situations, in the situations of need. But of course, just like everything else, the left does not seem to care about the things like reality or facts. So they instead attack DeSantis for his awesome performance. As we have seen a few days ago, Kamala Harris would rather get mad at DeSantis for not answering her calls as if they are dating, even though she is not the active president. Joe Biden is. Isn't that what the Democrats are saying? How can Kamala be a newcomer if she has nothing to do with the Joe Biden administration? Even though she is the vice president, but we're not supposed to mention that. When it comes to failures like Afghanistan or the Inflation Reduction Act, she was at the forefront of these decisions. But at the same time, she wants to be the person that is not responsible for any of these things. But then at the same exact time, she wants to be the person that we turn to in the time of need, which it doesn't make any sense. She is the vice president, nonetheless, officially at least, not the president. She has absolutely no power, and she has no power over FEMA. She has no power over anything like she has been claiming. Or is it that she is the president and she can make the rules, but it cannot be both? You must decide which one she is. Is she the active president? Or if she is not, then what does she have to do with the preparation for hurricanes? She's a person running for president. And the person running for president does not get to beg the governor of a state that is going through a natural disaster. With that being said, let's dig in.
Facts over tracks, isn't that spitting slow, spitting fast? I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.
Digging right in, we actually have a Daily Wire article. We have ICE arrests previously deported illegal aliens wanted of crimes against humanity. But before we actually get into that, we have a Federalist article. We have, as North Carolina flood victims begged for help, Mayorkas went boutique shopping in Georgetown, the report says. So, of course, the federal government has spent our funds for things that is actively the opposite of what we actually need them to do. The government sees their need for help and sees all of the money that they have at their disposal, and they say, which one should we rather do? Should we go spend it on the people that are actively in need, or should we go shopping? Let's go shopping. Should we book ourselves with 5-star hotel rooms, or should we help the people in need? Let's go to 5-star hotel rooms. I choose that one. This is an absolute disgusting disgrace. And Mayorkas should have been put aside at the beginning of this very travesty, which is actually him ignoring the border situation. But that's just my opinion, and my opinion happens to be the right opinion. But of course, this administration has no idea what they're actively doing, or they do, but it's just malice. Disgusting. He is the Homeland Security Advisor, and he is actively responsible for the border crisis as well. So, what a list here. So, obviously, Alejandro Mayorkas reportedly went on a luxury shopping spree in Georgetown this weekend as residents across southern North Carolina continued to beg for emergency supplies. Mayorkas, who was impeached by the House of Representatives earlier this year for handling of the border crisis, was spotted in Washington Free Beacon scrolling through the men's section of Sid Mashburn, a high-end menswear store, surrounded by security. The Washington Free Beacon reported on Saturday that he appeared to purchase some items at the store, where suit jackets go for as much as $3,000, which is spending the money that he's getting from our taxpayer money when he has a job to do. So he should get fired immediately. The Beacon also noted that there is still more than 170,000 power outages in North Carolina alone, and the death toll from the Hurricane Helen stands at 227. Residents across flooded out regions of southern Appalachia, however, have been left without immediate disaster relief from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, an agency Mayorkas oversees as part of the Department of Homeland Security. Quote, they desperately need oxygen for stranded bound seniors. They desperately need food, clean water, and shelter. The Federalist Matt Kittle reported on Friday. Sadly, they also need body bags because of the fact that so many people are dead. Residents have been literally begging FEMA officials for critical supplies, but at the same exact time as all this, the mainstream media is saying that they are giving all the supplies, but it's Trump's doing, which does not make any sense because he's not the president. It's Trump's doing because of quote-unquote misinformation, because Trump is saying that FEMA is not helping them, so that makes people not want to go to FEMA for help, which does not make any sense because they're begging FEMA for help. You have been trying to follow exactly what the mainstream media is telling us and trying to also break down exactly what the reality of the situation is. I'll break it to you like this. This Joe Biden and Kamala Harris administration has been a catastrophe. Time after time, they have shown that they do not care about us, the citizens of America. They do not care when we need help. They do not care if we are stranded. They do not care if we are being held hostage abroad. They do not care about any of this. They constantly try to act like they do, but it's not the reality of the situation. That's exactly what's going on, and the mainstream media is trying to spin this in the way of trying to blame Trump for something that Trump has nothing to do with. Because of this, the Democratic Party cannot be trusted, obviously. So, moving with this article, Hurricane Helen crashed into Florida as a Category 4 storm and poured a record-breaking 40 trillion gallons of water across the South, washing away the entire Appalachian towns. FEMA is typically proactive in disaster response efforts, with pre-staged supplies set up where storms are estimated to hit, but such support was completely absent before the torrential downpours in Appalachia. Last week, Mayorkas responded to the crisis by telling reporters FEMA was low on money. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season. Mayorkas warned in Air Force Front 1, we are meeting with the immediate needs with the money that we have. Okay, so of course, FEMA does not have the money because, like we talked about a few days ago, FEMA actually gave away $1.4 billion when it comes to illegal immigrants. So they're spending the money on illegal immigrants instead of us, the tax-paying citizens, which are actually providing the money and the funds for these organizations, which is absolutely disgusting. And the mismanagement of funds should be investigated, and the department should be paying back the taxpayers immediately, which would bankrupt the agency, which would in turn make sure that we have public agencies instead. Public agencies do a lot better jobs than government agencies, because government agencies have people like this, Mayorkas, that is spending our money on things that do not need to be spent on. It's disgusting. It really, really is. So, with that being said, we have another article from the Daily Wire. We have ICE arrests previously deported illegal alien wanted for crimes against humanity. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, apprehended a previously deported illegal alien from El Salvador who was wanted in his home country for crimes against humanity, including human trafficking. ICE's Enforcement in Removal Operations, ERO, in Boston, Massachusetts, arrested an unnamed 50-year-old illegal alien on the wealthy island of Martha's Vineyard. Oh no, not Martha's Vineyard. The fugitive is wanted by authorities in the native country to face some extremely serious and disturbing allegations. ERO Boston Acting Field Office Director Patricia H. Hyde explained in a statement. He attempted to hide out in Massachusetts and escape the law enforcement in his country. He posed a substantial threat to the residents of Martha's Vineyard, but of course, if this was in any other major city, they would not care at all. But it's only because this is exactly where they live in Martha's Vineyard that they actually care about this. This is exactly why when Desantis sent 13 illegal immigrants, the Massachusetts governor declared a Massachusetts state of emergency, and they had so many people and resources dedicated to these 13 people. But then we have thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants coming into border towns per minute and per hour and stuff like that, and they're being overwhelmed. The cities are getting taken over by illegal immigrants. but they don't care at all. It's only when they inconvenience themselves or when the situation inconveniences them do they care about the situation. Other than that, they do not care whatsoever about these illegal immigrants, because if they did, then they would shut down the border. They would implement the same exact policies that Trump had, in which we did not see any disasters much like this. With that being said, we're going to be digging into the media's takes.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Hurricane Milton has now intensified to a Hurricane Category 5. So, this has been reported on Monday. As the storm moves closer to the Gulf of Mexico, it is expected to make landfall in Florida later this week by Thursday. I was watching some radars, and they're saying by Thursday at 8 a.m. it should make landfall. So if you're in the Tampa area, please leave. Everybody's telling you to leave, so please, for the all things good, just leave. All the highways are all backed up, but if you start now, you're probably going to get out of there, hopefully, by the end of today. So please, by the love of all things, please just leave. Okay, it's easier to just leave. Don't try to fight the hurricane. Don't try to stay in your home. Gather everything that you possibly can in your car or somebody else's car, or rent a U-Haul for Christ's sake, or rent a van from Home Depot or Lowe's or somewhere. Put all of the most important stuff in there, and please leave. Get a hotel in New York for the weekend or for the week, or get a hotel in somewhere else. Please just leave. Get to safety. It's not worth it to stay there. It's not worth it to actually trust your instincts and try to help yourself survive this thing. It's not. It's going to be a good story, yes. Unless you're a first responder, please leave the area. It's not worth it, okay? I don't want to see any more people die. There's already reportedly 232 people that died from Hurricane Helene. So I do not want to see any more people die from Hurricane Milton. It's just this is a disaster. FEMA has completely destroyed its reputation. I saw a lot of reports that volunteers are actually helping out, but then there's helicopters flying over the volunteer areas and destroying all of the tables that they have for handing out goods. So it's completely disgusting what's happening over there. And it just showcases what people can actually do with their money. Elon Musk used SpaceX and used Starlink to actually provide internet and Wi-Fi for free. A lot of people are saying, oh, you need a subscription. No, there's areas that he set up publicly for people to access Wi-Fi for free, so they can just go there, connect to the Wi-Fi, and get connection to their families. It's a really good thing what Elon is doing. And people are trying to undermine that, but not only what Elon is doing and what SpaceX is doing with Starlink, but also a lot of other people are volunteering money, resources. Dolly Parton has donated $1 million, which is really good. God bless her soul. God bless her. And a lot of other people are donating assets. I know that Jason Aldean has donated a couple million or so for the victims of that disaster. So I just don't trust American Red Cross. I do not trust any of these other organizations like FEMA. I would never donate to these organizations at all, because of the fact that they sit here and say, okay, well, we're the first responders. But then when it comes to actual disasters or actual situations, American Red Cross is just not at the scene at all. So no, I'm very good with these organizations. They take all the money for themselves at the higher ups. So the National Hurricane Center posted on X just before noon that the data from the Air Force Reserve indicated that Milton has identified into a Category 5 status, with the maximum sustained winds estimated to be 160 miles per hour. A Category 5 is the highest level of Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale, which is based on the storm's sustained wind speed. With such a powerful storm, according to the National Weather Service, catastrophic damage will occur. The National Hurricane Center said that in a 10 a.m. discussion post on Hurricane Milton was undergoing remarkable rapid intensification, but explained that the storm will encounter a much less favorable environment. This would promote weakening before it reaches Florida Gulf Coast, which is great. However, the system is likely to be a large and powerful hurricane to make landfall in Florida, with life-threatening hazards at the coastline as well as the inland. The National Hurricane Center added key messages in the post warned of the possibility storm surge, strong winds, and heavy rainfall and flooding. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, the best governor ever, has declared a state of emergency in 51 counties. President Joe Biden approved an emergency declaration, making federal resources more rapidly available to assist the response efforts. Evacuation orders have been given in counties throughout the southwest part of the Sunshine State, and it's just horrible because I was just in Florida in May, and in the hurricane, in the area that I was at. They were just hit with a hurricane not so long ago that they had a poster up saying, "I'm sorry for the appearance. We're still working on getting this fixed from the last hurricane." So now they have another hurricane. So it's such a sad factor of life that all of these hotels, but not only these hotels, but all of these people have to suffer through a hurricane, and then a few years later a hurricane, and then boom, and then you try to fix something, boom, there's another hurricane. So that's exactly why I can assume at least that house insurance costs are through the roof because you must get hurricane insurance just in case something does happen to your house, and then they'll cover it because you have the hurricane insurance. So good luck dealing with the insurance companies, because the insurance companies, they probably cancel you right after that thing, because once you put in one claim, boom, you're done, which is just disgusting. Landfall could happen on Wednesday evening or Thursday morning, although the reach of the storm extends far beyond the center. The National Weather Service said that the hurricane says that its current track is going to be the worst storm to impact the Tampa area in more than 100 years. Millions of people in the region. So, of course, again, FEMA is now going to try to get resources together. I do not trust their ability whatsoever. Hurricane Helen hit Florida with a major Hurricane 4, Category 4 hurricane less than 2 weeks ago, and its remnants swept across Georgia and Carolinas with the Tennessee and Virginia. At least 232 people died. Towns were destroyed. Millions of people lost power, cell service, and running water. Recovery efforts are still underway, with a great deal of scrutiny being placed on the federal response. Of course, I completely agree with that. We talked about the federal response with here. The Federal Emergency Management Assistance, which is actually FEMA, is not providing any assistance whatsoever. The Atlantic hurricane season is ramping up just weeks ahead of the 2024 presidential election, in which former President Donald Trump faces Vice President Kamala Harris in the White House race. Trump has criticized the federal response to Helen while taking jabs at President Joe Biden and Harris. All three have visited states that were struck by the storm in recent days. I completely agree. Some people that live in Florida that are commenting on this article saying that as a Floridian, it's not going to be a Category 5 when it hits. It's actually going to be a Category 3, and it's not going to be comparable to what hit North Carolina a few weeks ago at all. So, of course, from the aspect of me, at least, I can speak for me. In Massachusetts, we don't have that many hurricanes, and when we do have a hurricane, it's not anywhere close to a Category 3. Maybe it's a Category 1. That's like the lowest scale that you could possibly get. If not, then it's just a tropical storm that we usually get, and that's not really that bad. So I could only imagine what these people are going through when they actually get a category above, which is just disappointing. The fact that we still don't have all of our shit together as a country. I mean, yeah, we have early monitoring systems. Now we have Florida Governor Ron DeSantis right now. But in North Carolina, a lot of people are saying that they didn't even get the alerts to say, like, evacuate now, like early warning signs so they can actually get out of the area. A lot of people are saying they did not get that alert, so I don't know what's happening with that. Right now, I can say that with every single piece of evidence that we can see here, people are saying just leave. Even if you do have to spend maybe $200 to get a hotel for the next few days or so, or stay in a motel, something. Just leave the state, stay safe. It's better to be safe than to be sorry because you stayed there. So if any corporations are there, obviously work should be canceled from Tuesday on through the rest of the week. Because of the situation, if anything, go remote so all these people can leave the area in Tampa and get to safety, because you do not want to be messing with this. With that being said, we do have a Federalist article here. We have tight security during Trump's return to the site of the first assassination attempt highlights Secret Service failures. So, of course, a lot of the security screenings that they did a few days ago when Trump went back to Pennsylvania, is something that they didn't do the first time. So I don't know why they didn't do that the first time, but at least they're doing it now at bare minimum. And the fact that he even went back to Pennsylvania in the very first place, it shows his bravery and it shows his ability to actually say, no, you know what, that happened to me. And what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be fighting, fight, and we are going to be not showing that we're scared at all. We're going to continue exactly what we've been doing. We must do that. I really recommend everybody to see this whole entire rally for themselves. It's only an hour and 30 minutes of your time. Just put it on like a podcast. That's what I do. I just go throughout my regular day. I go to the gym, I work out, stuff like that with the podcast on in the background. And that's exactly what I do with this Trump speech here. So I completed about an hour of it so far. I got the meat and potatoes of it. I really liked it. This is the first time that I actually watched a full Trump rally from start to finish. I'm probably going to finish the rest right after this episode here, but it's such a good thing just to listen to the whole entire thing without listening to clips, because you'll get to see exactly what Trump is saying for yourself. It's so much difficult. I mean, it's so much different to actually get the segments from other people than actually listening to it yourself, because you get to see everything. Yeah, there's some boring parts of not really boring, but there's some parts of the speech that people aren't going to go and clip out and then post, but it's such an energized experience. Like, for me listening to it, I can see that the whole entire crowd is loving it. I can see that the crowd loves Trump, which I would do the same exact thing if I was there. And it's just lightning. You don't see this at Kamala Harris's rallies, and that's the biggest difference here. Trump rally, there's no other thing like a Trump rally. It's just such an electric event. Everybody's enjoying themselves. Everybody's having a good time. Everybody is just there for Trump. Everybody's there for America. And you can see they're all singing the Star-Spangled Banner. You can see that they're just all American-loving people. You need to go to Kamala Harris's rally, or I should say a Megan Thee Stallion rally, and you can see that they are not pro-America. They're just pro-themselves. They're here for themselves, not America. They're here just because of the fact that they just want to be showing off their ability to actually get attention. That's the major difference here. Democrats just want the attention. Republicans want to give the attention back to the average American people. So, moving with this article here, tightened security at former President Donald Trump's Saturday rally at the site of the first assassination attempt draws a dark contrast with the lax United States service measures taken on July 13 that allowed him to get shot in the head. The rally site at Butler Farm Show Incorporated in Butler, Pennsylvania, was surrounded by local, state, and federal officials on foot, horseback, and in vehicles of the day of the event. Aside from a normal metal detector and security checkpoints, one might expect such an event. The large display of security personnel did not go unnoticed by the rally attendees. This one definitely I saw a tighter security measures, no doubt, more barriers, and I think that they have gotten more prepared this time to protect Donald Trump, and protect all of the MAGA fan base as a whole. Rally attendee Nima Pershi of Burlington County, New Jersey, who was also at the site of the July 13th rally, told the Federalist, "They're definitely doing a great job. I have great respect for the law enforcement and all the agencies." Nearly every building visible around the ground site had snipers and other security personnel on them, which is actually good. Including the now infamous AGT glass building from which Trump's would-be assassin fired his bullets, killing 1 and injuring 3, including the former president. Agents frequently scanned out inside and outside of the site through binoculars, and the roar of a counter-drone system persisted throughout the duration of the event, which is actually really good. Tightened security measures made sure that nothing actually was going to happen that day, and this is exactly what should have happened. On July 13th. This is exactly what should have happened, but it didn't happen. So that just makes you question, why is it that it's happening now, that more eyeballs are on them, and it didn't happen before? So and I guess I solved the issue here. More eyeballs are on them, and they know that they're going to have to take responsibility for the action if something was to happen again, because it's going to be even more of a catastrophe because we already knew about the potential for a Trump assassination. So for them to ignore it even farther, it would just showcase their inability to actually do their job and to protect people at all. So yeah, so that would be the biggest failure and the catastrophe of the federal government if he was to actually get assassinated the second time. So with that being said, we have another Daily Wire article. We have Kamala struggles in friendly interview to answer basic questions on her economic agenda because she has no idea how to actually implement her agenda. She just says the key terms and the key words, and then she's just sitting there and she's saying all of the buzzwords that her team wants her to say, but that's about it. She doesn't know how to actually explain it. Vice President Kamala Harris struggled in a friendly interview this week to compassionately answer questions surrounding her economic agenda. Harris sat down in an interview at CBS News 60 Minutes that was taped last week and is set to air on Monday night as part of a special election episode. Quote, "My plan is about saying that when you invest in small businesses, you invest in the middle class, and when you strengthen America's economy," Harris told correspondent Bill Whitmer, Whitaker, small businesses are a part of the backbone of American economy. But pardon me, Madam Vice President, the question was, how are you going to pay for it? Whitaker responded, "Well, one of the things I'm going to make sure is that the richest among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes." Okay, so this is exactly it. Democrats are sitting here saying, we're going to tax the rich. We're going to tax the rich. Like, oh my God, we're going to get so much money and we're going to give it to you, the middle and lower class people. Okay, so you're going to charge the higher people, the rich people, quote unquote, 60 to 70% of income, because in some states they're already paying 50% income to the government. You're going to go and tax them some more. Rich people pay all of taxes in America. The middle and lower class people pay maybe 10% of taxes. The rich people pay 99% of taxes. And then you can sit here and say, well, yeah, so then the middle class people pay some sort of tax on top of that. So yeah, no, it just, to explain the tax system in America, it's complicated instead of seeing a graph. So I would say that instead of looking at laxed states like Florida, they don't have an income tax, so it's very interesting there. But if you were to look at a state like California that has a subset of tax brackets, you can see that higher earners in California are charged maybe 35% taxes, and on top of that is a federal tax, and then they're paying close to 50%. But then in Florida, you would pay close to 25%, so you get to keep more of your money. On top of that, there's no state income tax. You're still going to have to pay federal, but there's no state income tax. So that's the best thing there. But how are you going to get it through Congress, he asked. Harris responded by saying that the members of Congress know what she's talking about because their constituents know exactly what I'm talking about. She did not answer the question, of course, because she's never going to answer any of the questions at all. She's going to sit here and say, well, it'll pay for themselves. It'll pay because I said so. Like, what are you even talking about? You need to know how people are going to pay for your policies that you want to implement. You can't just say tax the rich a bunch of times and then pretend as if we're just going to accept that as an answer. It's not an answer. So, with that being said, we do have another article from the Federalist. We have Kamala Harris is poised to revive the worst aspects of the FDR socialist agenda. So, Kamala Harris seems to think that quoting FDR will measure voters, but it should terrify them. At the Economic Club of Pittsburgh, Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris recently said that she would engage in what Franklin Roosevelt called bold, persistent experimentation, as he has told the 1932 graduating class at Elthurberg University, but she did not mention FDR's vision of remaking the world, which included fundamentally changing our popular economic thought to see a wiser, more quotable distribution of the national income. Instead, she would seek, quote, practical solutions, and even declared, I am a capitalist. She has been working with entrepreneurs and business owners for her, quote, whole career. No one has yet to been able to verify Harris's job at McDonald's. Yeah. She has also professed her belief in an active partnership between government and private sector. No, get out of the private sector. We do not need more government interjection. We need less government interjection. Sounding much like FDR's at the Commonwealth Club in San Francisco in September 1932, there he called for a new economic constitutional order built by an enlightened administration and enlightened businessmen who worked together to adjust production to consumption. Indeed, the desire to control production and fix prices was the aim of the largest contributor to the Roosevelt campaign. Wall Street spectator Bernard Brunch, he got the wish he paid for. The NRA, the National Recovery Administration. Similarly, Harris supporter and billionaire Mark Cuban is vying for the position as the head of Securities and Exchange Commission and calling those who called Harris a Marxist idiots. It was natural for Harris to quote Roosevelt. Biden referenced FDR in his speeches, especially in the State of the Union address, which he invoked the four freedoms, which had become the basis of his campaign. Before it was usurped by Harris. The media hailed Barack Obama as the second coming of FDR, with the November 24, 2008 Time magazine cover showcasing Obama poised as FDR in a convertible, clenching and characteristic cigarette holder. Clenching the characteristic cigarette holder. But as Ben Shapiro pointed out, Roosevelt's bold, persistent experimentation actually prolonged the Depression. So also warned James Freeman, relying on Amity Shields. Freeman noted that FDR's impulsiveness made it impossible for businesses to plan ahead. FDR's ignorance. Indeed, as I pointed out, just like Harris does in word salads, he would tell two advisors with dramatically opposed solutions to compromise. He would incorporate contradictory statements into the same speech. He was ignorant about economics and made no efforts to learn prejudices learned in childhood guided his foreign policy. Yes, he felt himself qualified to plan the economy and lives of all Americans. FDR experimented. Indeed, he followed the economic theories of his brain trust cornfield philosophers with PhDs, as John T. Flynn called them. Instead of letting prices bottom out and the economy to recover as it did after World War I, the Brain Trust ordered farmers late in the spring of 1933 to plow under crops and then tax processors. The NRA set prices, driving out small businesses. The result, food shortages and increased prices for people already hungry. Harris' first ever federal ban on corporate price gouging by food companies promises the same exact results. Exactly, because if you put price gouging on businesses that have a low, like a 2% price margin, then they're not going to actually stay in business and they're not going to sell any food. They're not going to sell any food. And then you're going to sit here and you're going to say, well, why is America going hungry? It's the businesses again. It's the businesses again. It's not the businesses. It's your economic policy that is ruining America. But of course, Democrats, they just want to ruin he just wants to go ahead and ruin the ability for small businesses to actually succeed in this economy, and then they just want to blame small businesses again. They're going to sit there, ruin the economy, and then they're going to blame small businesses for doing exactly what they did. They've ruined the economy, and then they're going to blame the small businesses for ruining the economy. It's a full circle in which they can never get blamed for anything that they do. It's disgusting. We cannot let this happen. And like I always end this episode, or every single episode recently, we must remember this in November. Yes, we must vote in Trump, or else we will get all of these economic policies that will ruin the economy, because we have people that are not professionals. We have people that do not know how to run a business. We have people that think that they know everything, in which they really do not. So, with that being said, we're going to end off this episode here. If you did like this episode and you do want to see more, I do post new episodes of the show every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening, and I hope they have a great rest of your day. Bye.